Right now is one of my favorite times in the NBA season because it is trade season, and I've been doing NBA trade machine videos on this channel for years, and they're always controversial videos as well. Every single time I do a trade machine video, there's a ton of people having conversations down in the comment section below that are really agreeing with what I have to say or really disagreeing with what I have to say. Trades are always polarizing, and I'm super interested to see the conversations you guys are going to have down below about these 5 trades. Some of them from me, some of them from y'all that you send in over on Twitter. You can leave trades down in the comment section below. I'll take a look at those for future videos, but this is NBA trade machine number 1 for the 2022-23 NBA season. Really quickly though, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, PrizePicks. Now, if you've never done PrizePicks before, right now is by far the best time to get into it. If you click the link in the description and you use code SPORTY, you get a 100% deposit match up to $100 right off the bat. Again, that link is in the description. You can use code SPORTING. But right now, they also have a ton of really cool promos every single day. They're doing something a little bit different. You can go onto PrizePicks and check out just what they have going for you in terms of promos. Whether it be increasing what you get out of it if you win, free squares, all this kinds of stuff is happening all the time on PrizePicks. Now, if you've never done PrizePicks before, the best way I can explain it to you is it is just you against the numbers. You go onto the site and you pick what you think is going to happen in each of these games, and then you pick more or less for each of these numbers. So for example, you can see here they have points, combined points, assists, rebounds, threes made, turnovers, all kinds of different things. And if you feel like you have a good understanding of how different players or teams are going to perform given their matchup or given the context around the team, how they're playing at the time. If you're someone that pays a lot of attention to the NBA, or you feel like you have a good grasp of what's going to happen in these games, PrizePicks is an awesome place to be. And you go to these numbers, like I said, you pick more or less for each of them, and you pick between 2 and 5 players for your selection. And if you get them right, you win some cash. PrizePicks is available in over 30 states. You can do it on the app on your phone. You can go online, and it's just a really fun way to add a little bit to your experience when you're watching these NBA games. They have football as well. They have all kinds of different stuff. Again, that link is down in the description for a 100% deposit match up to $100. You use code SPORTING at PrizePicks, and thank you again to PrizePicks for sponsoring this video. We begin with the deal that one of you guys sent over to me, and in this deal, Brooklyn is getting Nikola Vucevic and Alex Caruso in exchange for Seth Curry, Joe Harris, and a 2027 first-round pick from Philadelphia. So for Brooklyn, a lot of their trades have to revolve around sending away Joe Harris and or Seth Curry, just from a salary perspective. Like everybody else on their roster that makes a significant amount of money is really critical to what they do. Obviously, they've been playing much better lately. And Joe Harris and Seth Curry individually, specifically Curry, it's really difficult to put together a trade where you can get someone back that helps them while only using one of them. So in this deal specifically, they're getting back Vucevic as a front court player that can provide them scoring, that can provide them spacing. Importantly, can play alongside Ben Simmons. That is a really critical component of any Nets trade you want to put together in which they're trading for a big. A non-floor spacing big does not really help them. Like they could use some depth there. They could use someone that could soak up 10 to 15 playoff minutes because right now they don't really have a backup 5 that they trust. Behind Nick Claxton, they have to use Ben Simmons. They have to use Markieff Morris. But if you want to put someone on the team that can play significant minutes in the front court, they have to be able to space. That's why Vucevic is here, I would assume, in this deal. And then Caruso is someone that a lot of veteran teams around, a lot of contending teams around the league are going to convince themselves that they need someone like Alex Caruso on the roster. He can guard, he can space the floor, just does all the little things and is on a team-friendly contract. So for this deal specifically, I like this for Brooklyn. The issue is it's hard because you kind of have to pick either Seth Curry or Joe Harris because you want one of those guys. Ideally, one of those guys is going to be in your playoff rotation. But as I talked about in the beginning, it's hard to make deals like this work with bigger salaries without including both of them. And I'm not really sure that Chicago is all that interested in this kind of a trade package in exchange for Vucevic, who I know's value is not fantastic right now because he's an upcoming free agent and his value just isn't really there right now. And then Caruso, I think they could get a first-round pick for it, certainly just by himself. So if you attach the pick to Caruso, then in exchange for Vucevic, you're getting, Joe Harris and Seth Curry. I know that a lot of people know that Chicago at this point probably wants to sell off some pieces. This doesn't quite feel like enough value for Chicago. And then as much as Vucevic helps as a floor spacer, like Nick Claxton has been really good for them this season. And at a certain point, like you can't play Vuce and Claxton together because it's just not going to work. The way that those two guys play, they occupy a lot of similar spaces on the floor, even though Vucevic does space the floor better. I just don't think that works. I don't think it's a great use of the Nets assets, and I don't think that it's a great return for Chicago, but I put it in the video because I'm interested to see what you guys have to say about this particular deal. Okay, next up is one that I made, and we're going to get a little bit weird here. In this trade, Toronto is receiving Jay Crowder, Dario Saric, Torrey Craig, and Landry Shamet. Mostly that's just salary filler, and they're getting 4 future first-round round picks from Phoenix. Every single first round pick Phoenix can give up without a pick swap in exchange for Pascal Siakam. Now, Siakam is an incredibly interesting trade piece to me because if Toronto wants to go in this direction of maybe playing a little bit more towards their youth, right? I mean, OG Anunoby is still 25 and under guy. You know, Garrett Trent's still a younger player. Of course, Scotty Barnes. Siakam is like 28, 29 years old. He's a little bit outside of that kind of range, and his value right now is probably never going to be higher. Spoiler alert, he's coming up in another trade later as well that one of you guys sent over to me, and he fits really well in a lot of different places because, for example, for Phoenix, like having a front court scorer, having someone you can put out there that can score in other areas of the floor other than where Devin Booker and Chris Paul can score, and of course Ayton is a roller, but he's not as much of an offensive force, certainly not in isolation, certainly as Pascal Siakam. And I think defensively he provides you a lot of versatility there as well. And if you're Phoenix and you're looking at the situation, they have a new owner now, and you're thinking, where do we go with this group if we don't win a title this season? Like what does our title trajectory look like? It's pretty much this year, and then after this year you have no idea. I mean, Chris Paul he's only getting older. You know, the Ayton thing has always been a little bit weird. Devin Booker's having an awesome season, but they don't feel like a true contender right now, at least one of the you know, higher contenders in the league. And if you're just trading away like pieces, guys like Jay Crowder that aren't playing for you, and a couple of other just like random role players, and yes, all of these future picks, but you have a real legitimate chance to win the title this year, and you have a better, you know, path forward in terms of the future if Chris Paul does decide to leave or retire, whatever the case may be, with Siakam there. And if you're Toronto, this is a reset. You're like, you know what, that 27, that 29 pick could be incredibly valuable depending on where Phoenix goes from here, and maybe there are other better trade packages out there in terms of value they could get in return right now. But if you're just looking at the long-term outlook of the group, we've seen time after time teams prioritize deals exactly like this one where you're just getting a ton of picks. Next up now is another trade that I came up with, and this is a 3-team trade. In this deal, the Wizards are getting Patty Mills, Day'Ron Sharpe, a first-round pick from Brooklyn, but it's actually Philly's pick. The 2023 Phoenix pick. Phoenix is getting Seth Curry and Kyle Kuzma, and the Nets are getting Jay Crowder, Dario Saric, Daniel Gafford, and a second-round pick from Phoenix. So first up for Washington, they're cashing in on the Kyle Kuzma asset here. They realize that he's going to want a new contract. Maybe it doesn't make a ton of sense to retain him. He really doesn't want to be there, it doesn't seem like. And you can get salary filler, basically, and you get 2 first-round picks in exchange for Kyle Kuzma, which feels like really good value. And if you're Phoenix, it's similar to the Siakam thing, but of course the price is not nearly as much. You're getting rid of, you know, a couple pieces that don't really matter to you, and you're getting back guys that can play for you right now. And again, the goal is to try and win the title. Like, you're good enough. You're right there. You need a few more pieces. Certainly you need a wing, especially if Jay Crowder's not going to play for you, and you get some floor spacing as well. And Brooklyn gets some front court depth that I do think that they need behind Nick Claxton, so that if they get into a series where he gets in foul trouble or they need a bigger body, they have someone like that. And then Jay Crowder just fits their playoff rotation better, assuming he actually wants to play for Brooklyn, because he doesn't want to play for Phoenix. He fits that better than Seth Curry, who's undersized and an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season anyway. And so if you're looking at trying to improve your playoff roster, then I think Jay Crowder makes more sense than Curry does. I'm interested in this one because it's a little bit more complicated. Really interested to see what you guys have to say, but I think I've managed to put together a 3-team trade where every single team wins. Next up now is another deal that you guys sent to me. This one is from Michael, and it's our other Pascal Siakam trade that I referenced earlier in the video. In this deal, Toronto is getting 3 first-round picks, Bones Highland and Michael Porter Jr. in exchange for Pascal Siakam. So depending on your valuation of what future picks mean and what you think of Porter Jr. and Bones Highland, this is even more value than Toronto was getting in a previous trade, you know, from Phoenix with all those future first-round picks. And again, for Denver, it's one of those things where if you believe you have a real shot at the title, like, that's something you need to try and take advantage of. Like, that's not something that's always going to be around for you. And Jokic is playing at a level where he might win a 3rd MVP, and you're still waiting on Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., these guys, to really integrate fully back into the team. But if you don't feel like waiting around anymore, Michael Porter Jr. is an interesting trade asset that, even though everybody's assuming he's going to continue to get better, get healthier, become a future all-star, if that never happens, that really limits what you can do because of the salary that he's on. And then of course you give up all these future picks. But this one, I had one question about. I don't know how the Siakam, Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic front court works. Now, granted, in the past when we saw Aaron Gordon not succeed because he was trying to play at the 3 at Orlando, they didn't have as much floor spacing certainly as you would have with Siakam and Jokic, of course, in the front court. And theoretically, I think there's a way that could work, but you also could be putting yourself in a situation where you lose Porter Jr. and you don't have a true, you know, replacement for him at the 3 spot outside of someone like Bruce Brown. And then you're getting in a situation in a playoff series where, like, Siakam and Jokic are in the front court, but now Aaron Gordon's not playing for you because those 3 guys don't fit on the floor. So you can't end the game with your 5 best players. And you've already invested heavily in someone like Aaron Gordon, both in terms of assets with that previous trade and in terms of money. So theoretically, although I think the value of getting back Porter Jr. and all these picks is interesting for Toronto, and the fit of Siakam, especially offensively, is really interesting in Denver, the pieces might not all fit quite as well as you would think at first. And the last up is a trade that I came up with, and it is our obligatory Lakers trade. We can't do a trade machine video without including the Lakers, of course, right? So we've got the Lakers getting Kelly Oubre and PJ Washington in exchange for Pat Bev, Kendrick Nunn, and a 2027 first round pick. So there's a lot of stuff you could do here with Charlotte, because as bad as Charlotte is as a team, they have some relatively interesting pieces. I mean, you could throw Terry Rozier in here, PJ Washington, and Kelly Oubre, as I have. Here's my thought process. If you're Charlotte, that 27 Lakers pick is a really valuable trade piece for you potentially. And I know it's so far in the future, and I like PJ Washington. Like, I think he's a solid player, but if you're really just completely resetting this thing and trying to get as much value as you can, PJ Washington needs a new deal. Kelly Oubre is going to be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. At a certain point, it's about getting value, and you're getting expiring contracts back. You're not taking on any salary, and you're just getting a first round. You just have a 2027 Lakers first round pick. And if they don't want to move both their picks so they can go get the Pacers guys, they don't want to move Russ and both the picks, whatever the case may be, Charlotte can represent like an interesting kind of third door, like another option here for them to potentially go through in a deal where they don't have to give up as much, but they still get a wing and Oubre that can space and guard a little bit for them, and PJ Washington provides them some front court flexibility without having to give up a ton of stuff in exchange, without having to give up 2 of those first round picks. Now, ultimately, that might still be a little bit rich for the Lakers. They might still not want to give up these picks all the way in the future, given injury issues to AD and LeBron's age. But I wanted to provide an alternative solution to just them giving away both those picks for role players. Rather, in this case, you're giving up one of those picks for some role players. So there you have it, our first NBA trade machine of the season. Let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think about each of these deals. Send me some new ones for future videos. We're going to be doing a lot of these over the next couple of months before the February trade deadline. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.